Stephie gets advice from Finn, Dylan and will kiss, and Sheila addresses up sex with Deacon to Taylor. Eric could be sued. Eric deciding to go back to Forrester Creations after being retired, returning and retiring on his own. Also subscribing a contract to work at Logan makes him look like a flighty teenager. This Kickborough womanish commission plot for Katie is each about Ridge and Eric, leaving Katie and Bill without a developer. Short observed on Katie's part when developer Deke was right there for the taking. Bill told Katie that the elder Forrester inked a contract, so his designs belong to Logan. Indeed the bones. Ridge wants to use that he saw at Eric's house. However, Katie has a case against Eric and FC. If he uses them, will that be the coming story coming? Ivy's preoccupation some might call Elektra an easy victim. She's kind, sweet and generous and the least worldly character on the show. Sorely ripe for manipulation. Ivy's investment in her love life is accessible. She's her aunt. But she's been manipulating her into jilting Will for kinsman RJ. But why? In the history, Ivy was manipulative, but she sounded to have turned a corner. She's more analogous to Allie now, obsessed with the proper morals of the Forresters. Does she just not want Elektra with a Spencer because her romantic history with both Liam and Wyatt turned flat? Let us know your studies on both stories, and what's coming up this week in the commentary. From the promo. I've a way to make you feel more, Dylan says. Oh yeah, asks Will. They kiss. It's not proper at each, Ivy tells Elektra. It was so amazing. Over and over. Sheila gushes to Taylor about coitus with Cleric. I tried to recommit myself to Sheila, but all I could suppose about was you, Deacon tells Taylor. Cleric and Taylor kiss. Bold and beautiful on Monday, March 2nd. Stephie turns to Finn for advice. Hope and Deke encourage Deacon. Taylor has an awkward run heft with Sheila. Bold and beautiful on Tuesday, March 3rd. Stephie and Hope argue about their parents. Deacon fantasizes about Taylor during coitus with Sheila. Bold and beautiful on Wednesday, March 4th. A recently single Will attracts the attention of Dylan. Taylor and Deacon struggle to stay piecemeal. Bold and beautiful on Thursday, March 5th. Sheila is thankful to Taylor. Deke encourages Cleric to choose his own happiness. Dylan divulges all to Will. Bold and beautiful on Friday, March 6th. RJ reminisces on his kiss with Elektra. Will shock Stephie with unanticipated news. The week of March 2nd on the Bold and the Beautiful explodes with emotional reversals, romantic snares, and the kind of high-stakes fashion warfare that has defined the Forrester and Logan families for decades. What begins as a story about contracts and creative power snappily spirals into commodity important deeper questions about fidelity, identity, and whether love can survive in a world where business and passion are hopelessly intertwined. At the center of the storm stands Eric Forrester, whose decision to come out of withdrawal, again, may bring further than anyone anticipated. After intimately stepping down from design and leaving his heritage in the hands of his son, Eric stunned everyone by subscribing a contract with Logan's fashion house, giving Katie and Bill the prestige developer they desperately demanded. But now, with his unforeseen return to Forrester Creations, questions arise about power, treason, and whether the primogenitor has damaged his credibility beyond form. From a legal viewpoint, the situation is combustive. Bill Spencer made it crystal clear Eric inked a list contract. That means any designs created under that agreement belong to Logan's company. If Ridge uses sketches he saw at Eric's home, designs technically produced during that contractual period, Katie could have a licit case. The idea of Katie suing Eric and Forrester Creations is nearly unbelievable, yet entirely presumptive. The emotional fallout would devastate the family dynamic. Eric's return formerly paints him as impulsive, indeed reckless, bouncing between withdrawal and reanimation like a man chasing confirmation. For a Goliath of the assiduity, that inconsistency undermines the gravitas he formerly commanded. What makes the plot particularly sharp is how it subtly shifts concentrate down from Katie's commission. This was meant to be her triumph. A woman rebuilding her professional identity with Bill's backing. Rather, the narrative centers formerly more on the contest between Eric and Ridge. Katie and Bill threat being reduced to collateral damage in a father-son power struggle. Ironically, developer Deke was available each on a wild-card creative mind who might have offered stability. But bold opinions frequently come with unlooked-for consequences in Los Angeles' most glamorous boardrooms. While business pressures escalate, particular lives crump just as dramatically. Stephie Forrester finds herself formerly again leaning on John Finn Finnegan for clarity. Stephie is no foreigner to conflict, whether between her parents, her spouses, or her extended family, but this week she feels the emotional risk more acutely. As Hope and Stephie clash over their parents' messy romantic snares, old injuries renew. Stephie's instinct is to cover her mama, Taylor, but she can't ignore the ripple effect of Deacon's complicated commitment. Finn's advice is predicated and steady. He reminds Stephie that she cannot control the history, nor can she mandate the choices of those around her. For maybe the first time in a long while, Stephie listens. Meanwhile, love takes an unanticipated turn when Dylan makes a bold move toward Will. In a quiet but emotionally charged moment, Dylan tells Will he has a way to make him feel more. The pressure lingers before they partake a kiss, one that leaves Will visibly shaken yet intrigued. Will has just come off heartache, vulnerable and searching for stability. Dylan's interest is genuine, though it carries its own complications. Their kiss signals a new direction for Will, one that could challenge the prospects of both the Spencer and Forrester families. Latterly in the week, Will shock Stephie with unanticipated news, suggesting that the kiss wasn't a transitory trial but commodity deeper. Whether this becomes a lasting love or another stepping gravestone in Will's trip remains to be seen, but it incontrovertibly reshapes the social dynamic among the youngish generation. In another corner of Los Angeles, Ivy's preoccupation with Elektra intensifies. Once portrayed as reformed, Ivy now seems consumed by a rigid sense of proper morality evocative of Ollie's most extreme persuasions. Her hindrance in Elektra's love life, pushing her down from Will and toward RJ, raises uncomfortable questions. Is it about guarding Elektra from the Spencer heritage, or is it covetousness embedded in Ivy's own failed loves with Liam and Wyatt? Elektra, sweet and trusting, becomes an easy target for manipulation. She believes her aunt has her stylish interests at heart, ignorant of the subtle compulsion shaping her opinions. When RJ reminisces about their kiss, it's clear he feels commodity real. Yet the foundation is shaky, erected on Ivy's advised influence rather than organic chemistry. However, Ivy's fragile redemption bow could shatter permanently if Elektra discovers the verity. Also there's the ever-changeable Sheila Carter, whose capability to stir chaos remains unmatched. Her candid, nearly festive relating of closeness with Deacon Sharp to Taylor Hayes is both instigative and strategic. Sheila knows exactly what she's doing, provoking Taylor, asserting dominance, and reminding her rival that she still occupies Deacon's bed. Yet beneath the bravado lies instability. Deacon's concession to Taylor that he tried to recommit to Sheila but couldn't stop allowing about Taylor exposes the fragility of Sheila's position. When Deacon and Taylor partake a kiss, it feels less like treason and more like ineluctability. Their chemistry simmers beneath times of complicated history. By midweek, Deacon's fantasies about Taylor during closeness with Sheila accentuate the emotional peak in his heart. He may be physically present with Sheila, but emotionally he's drifting away. Deke's stimulant, that Deacon should choose his own happiness, serves as a catalyst. For formerly, someone isn't judging Deacon's history miscalculations, but prompting him toward authenticity. The question becomes whether Deacon has the courage to act on his passions or whether guilt and fear will tether him to a relationship erected on participated notoriety rather than genuine connection. Thursday's occasion introduces a rare moment of gratefulness from Sheila toward Taylor, and commerce trickling with irony. Sheila's gratefulness feels transactional, as though she's testing the waters of civility while conniving her coming move. Taylor, perceptive as ever, senses the turnabout. The awkwardness of their hassles reflects times of enmity concentrated beneath forced politeness. In this triangle, no bone is innocent. Taylor must defy her moping passions for Cleric, indeed as she risks reigniting conflict with Sheila. As Friday arrives, the Ripple Goods meet. RJ reflects on his kiss with Elektra, wondering whether it marks the morning of commodity lasting, or simply a response to circumstances orchestrated by Ivy. Will, meanwhile, drops unanticipated news on Stephie, news probably connected to Dylan and the consummation that his path may diverge sprucely from what his family envisaged. Stephie's response is a mix of surprise and defensive instinct, but Finn's earlier counsel echoes in her mind. She cannot script the futures of those she loves. Through it all, the show returns to its core themes: heritage versus reinvention, fidelity versus desire, and the cost of ambition. Eric's contract dilemma threatens to enkindle a legal war that could review the fashion geography of Los Angeles. Ivy's manipulation pitfalls alienating the veritably bastard she claims to cover. Dylan's boldness opens new romantic home, and Deacon's disunited heart sets the stage for heartache, or redemption. This week doesn't simply move pieces on a chessboard. It tilts the board entirely. Connections formerly considered stable fluctuate under scrutiny. Alliances shift. Secrets inch near to exposure. And in true cleaner pieces fashion, every kiss carries consequences. As March unfolds, observers are left asking the same question that has fueled the series for decades in a world sutured together by glamour and pride. Can love ever truly be simple? As the fallout from Eric's contract decision continues to ripple across Los Angeles, the emotional and commercial stakes climb. Indeed advanced on the bold and the beautiful. What originally looked like an impulsive creative decision now threatens to fracture the assiduity's most important dynasty. Eric has always been guided by passion for design, for love, for heritage, but this time his heart may have overrun his judgment. The moment he stepped back into Forrester Creations, applause from patriots was drowned out by whispers of legal retribution. For Katie, this is no small vexation. Her cooperation with Bill wasn't simply about launching another fashion marker. It represented her stepping out from the shadow of the Forresters and staking her own claim in a world that frequently sidelines women, unless they're attached to an important man. Ironically, her bold vault forward may now be defined by yet another Forrester conflict. Bill, realistic as ever, reviews the contract line by line. He reminds Katie that Eric willingly inked, that intellectual property law is clear, and that Ridge cannot simply applicable designs created under Logan's banner. But indeed Bill understands that suing Eric would produce emotional desolation that might not be worth the fiscal palm. The question becomes whether pride or peace will prevail. Eric himself struggles intimately. He no way intended to betray Katie or Bill. He simply felt a pull toward his life's work. Retirement left him restless, questioning whether stepping away meant surrendering applicability. Ridge's ambition both inspires and threatens him. Returning to Forrester Creations felt like reclaiming his identity. Yet now, gaping at implicit legal consequences, Eric must defy a painful verity. Leadership demands thickness. His oscillation between pull-out and re-entry sends confusing signals not only to the boardroom but to his family. Meanwhile, Stephie's world remains emotionally charged. When Stephie Forrester turns to John Finnegan for advice, it's lower about strategy and further about stability. Finn represents the calm outside the fashion storm, a man predicated in drug, ethics, and rational study. Stephie reflections about Hope's examens, about her parents' complicated romantic history, and about the suffocating sense that every decision echoes through generations. Finn listens precisely before reminding her that compassion doesn't equal weakness. He encourages her to step back from the contest mindset and consider what truly matters, guarding their children from inheriting bitterness. The Hope and Stephie dynamic reignites when they disaccord over their parents' romantic snares. Each woman sees history through a different lens. Hope defends her father's right to pursue happiness, indeed if that happiness involves Taylor. Stephie fiercely protects her mama from demotion, especially when Sheila's provocations are involved. The argument is lower about present events and further about undetermined pain stretching back times. Their heated exchange underscores how cyclical the Forrester-Logan contest has come. Across city, Deacon Sharp faces his own reckoning. His attempt to recommit to Sheila Carter feels concave indeed to him. Sheila's enthusiastic relating of their closeness to Taylor Hayes is calculated, a display of possession disguised as translucency. She wants Taylor to feel insecure, to back down. Yet Deacon's admission that his studies drift to Taylor reveals an emotional verity Sheila cannot ignore. Taylor, for her part, remains torn between caution and craving. She understands Sheila's manipulative history and refuses to underrate her. Yet when Deacon looks at her with vulnerability rather of bravado, she sees a man trying to evolve. Their kiss is lower about impulse and further about suppressed emotion eventually surfacing. It leaves Taylor questioning her own moral boundaries. She has always deposited herself as steady and principled. Crossing into a relationship entangled with Sheila threatens that tone image. Back within the youngish generation, Will's trip takes center stage. The kiss with Dylan isn't simply a plot twist. It represents a moment of tone discovery. After heartache and confusion, Will finds unanticipated comfort in Dylan's straightforward affection. Dylan is neither manipulative nor reluctant. He states his passions easily, offering Will a choice rather than pressure. That clarity is refreshing. When Dylan latterly divulges his deeper passions, Will is forced to examine his own heart without the noise of family prospects. The shock Will delivers to Stephie on Friday signals a turning point. Maybe he's embracing a new relationship intimately, or maybe he's simply asserting independence. Either way, Stephie's defensive instincts face. She wants to ensure he's not acting out of pain. Yet she also recognizes that growth frequently requires threat. Finn's before advice echoes again allow space for others to define themselves. Contemporaneously, Ivy's decreasingly rigid worldview becomes insolvable to ignore. Her hindrance in Elektra's love feels less like guidance and more like protuberance. Ivy formerly navigated her own complicated snares with Spencer men, and the emotional scars loiter. Pushing Elektra toward RJ may feel like securing family honor, but it dismisses Elektra's autonomy. RJ, meanwhile, unfeignedly believes in his connection with Elektra. When he reminisces about their kiss, his expression reflects genuine stopgap. He doesn't see himself as a pawn in Ivy's moral chess game. Elektra, gentle and trusting, begins seeing inconsistencies in her aunt's narrative. Mistrustfulness flickers, however. The fallout could permanently alter their bond if she uncovers Ivy's manipulation. The Forresters pride themselves on fidelity, yet fidelity erected on deception cannot endure. The week's emotional top builds as multiple competitions impend. Bill weighs whether to shoot a formal legal notice to Forrester Creations. Ridge grows protective, interpreting the implicit action as a particular attack, rather than a contractual disagreement. Eric stands in the center, torn between pride and remorse. In private moments, characters reflect on identity. For Eric, it's about heritage. For Katie, commission. For Stephie and Hope, generational mending. For Will, authenticity. For Cleric and Taylor, alternate chances. For Sheila, control. Each plot intersects around one theme: the pressure between desire and responsibility. By the end of the week, no single conflict is completely resolved, but everyone is boosted. Eric's legal jeopardy hovers like a storm pall. Katie contemplates whether administering the contract will strengthen or fracture her newfound independence. Stephie recommits to guarding her family's emotional stability. Taylor wrestles with temptation. Cleric edges near to a decision that could either liberate or destroy him. Will stands at the threshold of a new chapter, uncertain yet hopeful. Ivy's moral campaign teeters on exposure. In classic cleaner pieces fashion, the beauty lies not in tidy judgments but in layered complications. Love triangles lap with commercial battles. Particular growth collides with generational grievances. Every rumored concession carries the weight of history. As the timetable turns deeper into March, observers are left anticipating ineluctable competitions. Will Katie truly sue Eric? Will Deacon choose Taylor over Sheila? Will Ivy's hindrance be revealed? And will Stephie and Hope ever break free from the contest that defines them? The stage is set for explosive exposures and fragile rapprochements. In Los Angeles, glamour masks vulnerability, but the verity always shells ultimately. And when it does, the consequences ripple far beyond the runway. As pressures continue to poach, the emotional temperature in Los Angeles rises indeed further on the bold and the beautiful. The legal query girding Eric Forrester becomes further than just a commercial dilemma, it turns into a vote on heritage. Board members at Forrester Creations still question whether Eric's faltering commitment could weaken investor confidence. Ridge feels defensive yet frustrated, caught between defending his father and guarding the company's future. At the same time, Katie begins to realize that administering the contract might not be about vengeance but about respect. However, what communication does that shoot about her authority? Bill supports her intimately, but indeed he senses the emotional cost of raising the battle if she allows Eric's abrupt exit to go unchallenged. Away, Deacon Sharp edges near to a decision that could review his life. His craving for Taylor Hayes grows harder to suppress, while Sheila Carter watches for signs of treason with calculating intensity. One misstep could enkindle a chain response no bone can contain. And as Will contemplates what his future with Dylan might look like, He understands that honesty, no matter how shocking, may be the only path forward.